Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Professor Dr. Mohanan Kundumel, Honorable Vice Chancellor of our university, Professor Dr. C.P. Vijayan, Pro Vice Chancellor of our university, distinguished guests, Dr. Professor Venugopal, Dr. Shinobi Kurian, our resource persons, Dr. Manoj Kumar, our registrar, Dr. Anil Kumar Sir, Controller of Examinations, Professor Shaji, Dean Research, Dr. Iqbal Sir, Dean Student Affairs, my dear colleagues, associate professors, and distinguished personalities. I am extremely happy to welcome you all to the observance of World Tuberculosis Day, that is today, March 24th, conducted by the Center of Healthcare Counseling, Kerala University of Health Sciences. This day was created by World Health Organization to spread the knowledge and awareness of tuberculosis, an infectious disease that kills millions every year. In 1882, on March 24th, Dr. Robert Koch discovered TB bacillus, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The WHO holds the first World Tuberculosis Day to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Dr. Koch's discovery, that is in 1982, March 24th. Every year, we observe World Tuberculosis Day on March 24th with public awareness about the devastating health, social, and economic consequences of TB and to step up efforts to end this global TB epidemic. The theme for this year is "The Clock is Ticking." Conveys the sense that the world is running out of time to act on the commitments to TB made by global leaders. As we all know, 1 year of COVID-19 eliminated 12 years of progress in global fight against TB. And the observance of this day will help us to motivate all to wake up and start working to spread the knowledge and awareness to prevent TB. Today, we will have an all-round discussion about tuberculosis, including the government programs of TB. We are lucky to have two eminent personalities, Dr. Professor K.P. Venugopal, Head of the Department of Pulmonary Medicine, Government Medical College, Kottayam, and Dr. Shinobi Kurian, Consultant, Government District TB Center, Kottayam. I proudly welcome both of you, sirs, to this function. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Mohanan Kundumel sir, has joyfully consented to inaugurate this program and to deliver the inaugural address. He is guiding us in all our ventures. I thankfully welcome you, sir, to this function. Professor Dr. C.P. Vijayan, Pro Vice Chancellor of our university, has happily agreed to felicitate in this occasion. With a great pleasure, I welcome you, sir, to this function. I welcome Dr. Manoj Kumar, our registrar, Dr. Anil Kumar, Controller of Examinations, Professor Dr. Shaji, Dean Research, Dr. Iqbal sir, Dean Student Affairs, Rajamohan sir, Sudhikumar sir, my colleagues, associate professors, and all the distinguished personalities. As the time is very much limited, I cordially welcome all of you to this program. I am sure that we all will have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all. Let us begin our program with the inaugural address. I invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Professor Mohanan Kundumel, to deliver the inaugural address and to inaugurate this program. Please.
Day to you all. Today on 24th, as it has been said, we are commemorating World Tuberculosis Day. And as it is said, it marks the announcement of Robert Koch that he has discovered the tuberculosis bacilli in 1882. And what is the data today? as on today, I request everyone to mute, because we don't want to hear what is happening in your room. Please mute. Uh, because the meeting is not possible if everybody makes noise. I think administrator, you please mute all. Otherwise, it's not possible.
സാറേ എനിക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. ഹരിലാൽ സാറിനെ വിളിച്ച് പറയാം.
Please mute all, because one or two persons cannot destroy a meeting. Somebody is one PVT, one PG. Who is this fellow? One PVT, one PG. Noise is coming from that mobile. Good. I think the speaker cannot speak when this kind of noise is going on.
സാറ് എനിക്കത് അൺമ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ ഹരിലാൽ സാറിനെ വിളിച്ചോണ്ടിരിക്കുക. സാറ് പറഞ്ഞു സാറേ. ഹരിലാൽ സാറിനോട് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഇപ്പൊ ചെയ്യും.
Delete that person. PVT1 PG. That person is making all the noise.
പ്രൈവറ്റ് മെസ്സേജ് അയച്ചു സാറേ.
അയാളെ delete that person. Delete that person. I honestly don't know who is this person who is creating all the noise.
PVT1 PG.
It's so sad that more than 100 people are disturbed by one individual.
Yeah.
Very sad, very sad. Anyway, we will continue. I will try to make my voice or noise louder. As on today, as per the WHO document, 1 crore persons have been suffering in tuberculosis, and last year we lost 14 lakh persons. So that's a very huge number. And when you compare with the COVID data, it says that so far 12 crore people are affected by COVID and 27 lakh people have died. So the mortality here is a little above 2%, even though all of us are terribly afraid of COVID. But tuberculosis, which is with us for more than 100 years, is killing more people. The mortality is much higher, and we have drug for that. We have very good drugs for that, but still people are dying left and right. And then we are more worried about a disease for which the mortality is less, but we are more worried. But of course, the reasons are different. You cannot compare COVID with tuberculosis. But the point is that tuberculosis is continuing, and that's a shame on us. Shame on us means shame on everyone, all the medical professionals, all the WHO and the health organization. That's why WHO has put the theme this time as the time is running out. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. That is the theme this year they have said, and it is because time is running out to our commitment to end TB by 2030, and we don't have that many years. And this year, probably we were not able to do a lot of work because of the fear of COVID, and so that is the situation. Now, what we can do, that is the most important thing, and I hope the erudite speakers will tell us what the country should do, what the state should do, and probably what the university also should do. I welcome Dr. K.P. Venugopal and Dr. Shinob Kurian for joining in this webinar, and I welcome each and every one of our faculty. This is an extremely important area, and I hope this discussion will evolve certain points wherein the university can also interfere. Maybe we can create some knowledge. We can disseminate some knowledge about tuberculosis to our students and our faculty, and we can create some knowledge about tuberculosis. As somebody was saying, if somebody can discover a new molecule for tuberculosis, that will be the greatest discovery, because for a long time, new molecule has not come to fight against TB. Of course, now people are behind finding a molecule to finish COVID-19, but somebody can discover some molecule for tuberculosis also. All these things are open, and I hope this discussion will be extremely useful. And with these few words, I declare this today's webinar inaugurated. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspiring, knowledgeable sessions. Thank you very much for your nice, encouraging, and foresighted, valuable messages. Next, I invite Dr. C.P. Vijayan, Pro Vice Chancellor of our university, to address the gathering. Sir, please.
Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala University of Health Sciences, officers of the university, today's speaker, Professor K.P. Venugopal and Dr. Shinob Kurian, host Professor Annie Matthew, and distinguished audience. As mentioned by Professor Annie Matthew, Honorable Chancellor, tuberculosis is a major problem, a major public health issue all over. Earlier, it was a problem of the developing countries. Now, even in tuberculosis, it's a problem. And I hope, and today we are lucky to have Professor K.P. Venugopal as the speaker. He is an astute clinician, an excellent teacher, and a very good researcher, and an excellent human. And he is heading the Department of Pulmonary Medicine at Medical College Kottayam. And he include Dr. Shinob Kurian also, who is the district TB officer of Kottayam. And as mentioned by our Honorable VC, we are expecting a lot from this team, a lot of knowledge, state-of-the-art knowledge about problem, public health problem, tuberculosis. And we hope that the university will be able to bring forth research materials in relation with tuberculosis. If it is a new molecule, we are all very happy. And I am extending all good wishes for this program and also for the fight against tuberculosis. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspiring speech. Thank you very much. Now we are blessed to have two eminent personalities with us in this afternoon. Professor Dr. K.P. Venugopal, Head of the Department of Pulmonary Medicine, Government Medical College, Kottayam, and Dr. Shinobi Kurian, Consultant, Government District TB Center, Kottayam. Both are very much committed to their work in tuberculosis. An alumnus of Government Medical College, Kottayam, Professor Dr. K.P. Venugopal had his UG, DCH, and PG degree in pulmonary medicine from Government Medical College, Kottayam. He had 22 years of professional experience. His areas of interest include tuberculosis, interventional pulmonology, etc. His research areas are interspecies transmission of tuberculosis and public health activities. He is the winner of State Award for Children's Literature in 1996. He had many research publications and attended many national and international conferences as resource person in India and abroad, countries like USA, Africa, etc. Dr. Shinobi Kurian had 11 years of experience in the field of tuberculosis, and he is a very good researcher. Now, with great pleasure and enthusiasm, I invite Professor Dr. K.P. Venugopal, sir, to start with the session. Sir, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, respected Vice Chancellor Mohan sir, Vijayan sir. Thank you for your kind words. And at the onset, I would like to thank Kerala University of Health Sciences for giving me this opportunity to speak on this World TB Day. And it's the right time, and it is high time to give tuberculosis its due importance. The clock is ticking is the slogan of this year. That means we have no time left. We have to reach our ambitious targets set in TB elimination program. We have to work hard. Thank you. We have reached a point of thinking of elimination of tuberculosis, which have killed more number of humans in the past, just because hard work of many great people who work in the field, like Robert Koch, whom we remember fondly on this very day, March 24th. So, just now, I just planned a time travel with tuberculosis. This will be interesting and will be an eye-opener to the perils we had in the past and to the great works done in the past to make us the way forward. And definitely, just the history of tuberculosis, I say, should say, is a story of co-evolution. Because both humans and this old strong mycobacterium, which kept on evolving day by day. The mycobacterium was found near the dated history of 500,000 years. This was seen in Paleolithic fossils and later in various mummies. And then finally, it was seen in many mummies that famous Tutankhamun pharaoh who died of tuberculosis. And now there is always a question, which occurred first? Previously, everybody thought tuberculosis was a zoonosis like our own, but the current studies, especially the DNA phenotyping, has shown that it is from the humans, the human genome after a deletion at RD9, and which led to M. bovis. So it is from the human to the cattle. And started initially, the whole thing started somewhere around Africa. and spread all over the world. But currently, in the last few centuries, there was a reverse of the second wave of this tuberculosis epidemic, which occurred from Europe, and basically because of the colonization everywhere, they spread the disease everywhere in the world. That was second wave of tuberculosis. And we know tuberculosis has a story. More than facts, we have myths. The story of moon god Chandran in our own mythology, getting tuberculosis, and the disease is well described in Ayurveda as Raja Yashin, or the king of diseases. And there is records before 3500 BC about tuberculosis in India. Whatever you call this, Chayam in Sanskrit, Phthisis in Greece, or Tabis in Rome, or consumption, whatever you call it, the disease says that there is wasting and something is eating you from within. We called with all the names till John Schonlein in 1830 found out that tuberculosis was the cause of all this. Basic pathology was tuberculosis, and he called it tuberculosis. So the name tuberculosis was even used only from 1830. And all that time there was no specific treatment. People thought it was a curse. Sometimes it could be cured because of a king's pet. And many times a vampire was the cause of tuberculosis. And people used to exhume bodies, do all the pagan rites and burning, and which was started the story of Dracula by Bram Stoker. And definitely, all those time, Europe was the basic area, the main area was suffering with tuberculosis. With more than 25% of all deaths were due to tuberculosis, and more than 1,000 per million, near 1,000 per million cases of tuberculosis was there. And whenever we had in our worst time, we had prevalence like that, and people called it a captain of all men of them. And definitely, we know tuberculosis is a front of battles. Whenever there is a war, there is a famine or poverty, tuberculosis will be always there. So it is more of a socio-economic disease. And in Europe, the Industrial Revolution has hastened the TB epidemic in Europe due to the urbanization, the overcrowding of people in workhouses where people used to smoke, they were alcoholics, and in addition, there was poverty. In addition, the government had taxed buildings on the number of the windows. So they decreased the number of windows by closing all the windows, and this added to the overcrowding and lack of ventilation, which led to increase in TB cases and all that time. So there was window tax, that's the foolishness of the government, which also increased the TB in that time. And we know lot of great people at that time they succumbed to tuberculosis, and we thought, and many thought, it was a disease of the rich and affluent people. Probably the poor people who succumbed were not a part of the history and were not thought of. These many artists many writers like Carl Stevenson, Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Keith Stelly, so many died of tuberculosis. And think of the Bronte family. All the three sisters, in all the 6 out of 7 members of the family died of tuberculosis before they reached 45. And it was thought as a romantic disease. In the area of the romantic period of English literature, Keats was a doctor who died of tuberculosis at the age of 25. He was the best romantic poet of all time. He described tuberculosis as a merciless labella, or a merciless beautiful lady who attracted and who killed knights or young person who came to her. And that was the time people thought of TB as a fashionable disease, and it was better to have TB because it always increased your aesthetics, it increased your spirituality and even your beauty. But during this time, there was also gaining of knowledge on consumption going on. We have John Lennox, who is always he was always important in our history, who was invented stethoscope. Actually, he invented stethoscope for helping him in auscultating tuberculosis patients. And he was a French physician. He gave a detailed description of pathology of tuberculosis. Actually, he made a wound in his arm and described tuberculosis, how it evolved and how it lasted. And that was the first time a detailed pathological evaluation of tuberculosis was given. And at this time, Williamin definitely showed that tuberculosis was due to an airborne transmission. And Louis Pasteur also, by his germ theory, suggested that even this disease can be due to an infection. But things changed only when Robert Koch, a German physician, who declared his discovery of tubercle bacilli at Berlin on the very day of March 24 on 1882. And he, in addition to the discovery of bacilli, he has given the Koch's postulates, which still counts important for all microbiology people, how a disease evolved and how a microbiological organism is causing disease. Then the same technique he used to smear, find out the sputum smear AFP is being used till now. He has found out all tuberculin. And also he has worked on anthrax and cholera and on acute immunity. So he is such a great person who has revolutionized the history of tuberculosis and made a lot of change during these times, and newer things came in tuberculosis just because of his discovery and his finding. And though he had made an old tuberculin, and which was thought to be a treatment of tuberculosis, it was taken as a miracle drug. So many people came to his house, but finally they found out that the tuberculin is not a drug and it was not useful, and this did not make any change in the treatment outcome of tuberculosis. But in 1900, Von Purkett, an Austrian pediatrician, used this as a skin test. And he is the person who coined the name allergy. And he also found out that there is a latent infection possible in tuberculosis. In 1905, Mander improvised the skin test. Another breakthrough discovery in tuberculosis was done by Roentgen. By discovering X-rays, he made diagnosis of pulmonary TB possible and has been in use even till date. And this has done the second most important step in diagnosis of tuberculosis. And always a vaccine, especially at that time, vaccine for smallpox, everything was there. So a vaccine for tuberculosis could have controlled tuberculosis. So Albert Camet and Camet Guerin, they have done 231 passages of Mycobacterium bovis in cultures from 1906 to 1919 to make an attenuated strain of bacilli. They call it a Bacillus calmette Guerin. And that was in use till 1930. But a Lübeck tragedy where a contamination of this BCG vaccine led to the death of almost 100 people, 100 children in Lübeck. So for a long time, BCG was not being used. And definitely the efficacy of BCG is not clear till date. Stays from 0 to 80%, but it has definitely prevented disseminated TB. And most of the countries still has accepted the BCG in their vaccine schedule, but not USA or Norway. And even at that time, there was nothing much to give for the TB patients because it was an airborne infection, and they thought the mountain air and the open spaces will cure tuberculosis. This is a scene from a hospital, pediatric hospital, where their tuberculosis patients are kept outside in the sun in the thought of curing of the tuberculosis. Then came the sanatorium era, and rich people went to Switzerland or all the mountain areas, and that is the start of the mountain tourism actually. And this is the Dr. Trudeau in New York. He is the founder of American Thoracic Society. He started the Sarawak Sanatorium in New York, and where he thought he could live more time because he was a TB patient. He stayed there, and he thought the mountain air could heal his tuberculosis. And later, still, there were all funny sorts of treatments. There were clinics running for artificial pneumothorax, where people come periodically to get their air refills on thorax. So this was there till 1945, when there is when we had a definite treatment for tuberculosis. But even before the start of the drugs, the history of treatment, it says that tuberculosis definitely decreased just after the First World War. It definitely decreased in the Europe, even without any drug. So we now see it shows that TB is a socio-economic disease more. So improve socio-economic standards, improvement of this hygiene, public health measures, that definitely was helping control of tuberculosis in the Western world. And definitely, and most importantly, this would be the most important thing, which even we have to think, all the third world countries have to look at, spitting spreads the disease, and this was banned there. And definitely that has made a lot in control of the tuberculosis. And then comes the era of chemotherapy with the discovery of streptomycin in 1945 by Dr. Waxman. But the happiness was not long-lived. Even within 1951, we found that streptomycin, the mycobacterium tuberculosis, is getting an upper hand, and a drug resistance was seen against streptomycin. Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of then the first lady of US, who died of tuberculosis, and her culture came as tuberculosis resistance to both INH and streptomycin. So we need more drugs and more drugs in groups. So PAS was found out in 1946, INH in 52, pyrazinamide in 52, ethambutol in 63. But the major breakthrough is on 1966 when we found out, when we had rifampicin. And with rifampicin, people sought the short course chemotherapy. Before that, the treatment was for 1 to 1.5 years. And now we have got treatment 6 to 9 months. So with the short course chemotherapy, and we found that the rifampicin cures, TB became TB is not a primary health issue in the Western world, especially with the domiciliary treatment. The sanatoria has been closed, and beds for TB in every hospital has came down, and no more research and no more funding. And people thought that TB is a thing of past, at least in the Western world. Back in India, we thought that TB was not a disease for the Indians. And the early time, we thought it was more seen in the English people who came to India. But finally, people know that even people in India has tuberculosis. And the first sanatorium in India was set up in Tilona in Ajmer by the Christian missionaries. The TB control measures from the government side through IUATLD started by Lady Lindithorpe, giving a major fund in 1929, and the TB Association of India was started in 1939. A board committee looked into the matters of TB in India in 1943. After the independence, BCG vaccination was done in a big way in 1951, and a national sample survey was done by ICMR in 1955 to 1958. We had two prestigious institutions, TRC Chennai and NTA Bangalore, settled, and which were the key for the many studies which revolutionized treatment of tuberculosis, like the home sanatoria treatment trial, the BCG efficacy trials, then the short course chemotherapy trials. And India has started the ambitious national TB program in 1962, and we thought the TB will be a control without much effort, and we left it there. And coming back to the Western world, there was a resurgence in TB in USA. The early 80s, more and more patients came with disseminated tuberculosis, especially IV drug users and homosexuals. Later, we knew it was HIV, and there was double trouble, and the TB HIV. And later in 1990, the New York experienced a major MDR TB outbreak. And now they know the TB is not just tuberculosis, it can be a time bomb which can explode at any time. MDR TB in New York was controlled with a lot of work. And now they know all world is a village. The immigrants and travelers move everywhere, and no man is an island. And definitely, TB anywhere is TB here. So the Western world was afraid. And the DNA fingerprinting in the MDR TB time that told that the disease was basically from a Russian strain, somebody who came from Russia. And there was a lot of learning lessons from that, and put a WHO alert of the global emergency. In 1993, WHO declared TB as a global emergency, and we started RNDCP here, the pilot project in 1993, and we knew that there was, though we had all the drugs and all the government support that time, the NDP was a failure because TB was not controlled. Probably because of a poor compliance, there were high relapse rates. So with increased political commitment and adequate supply of the drugs, we opted for the dose directly or cell therapy, but we opted an intermittent treatment regime on drugs only 3 times a week and in 3 different categories. We covered all over India by 2006 with 2 RNDCP. Now, still we had a review at around 2015 after almost 15 to 20 years of RNDCP. We still had 30% of the world's new smear positives in India and 50% of all the relapses in India. So, and we also knew that there is a pre-treatment INH resistance was very high in India. We had a little change. We changed the intermittent regime to daily regime, and we opted for fixed drug combinations. And we continued ethambutol throughout the treatment phase, and we moved to upfront NAT. And there is no separate regime for the previously treated or new ones. We had a 2 months HRSD regime followed by a 4 months HRE regime. So this is the 4 FDC. We have rifampicin, INH, pyrazinamide, and ethambutol for the first 8 weeks, followed by rifampicin, INH, and ethambutol the next period, the continuation period. And this is definitely the FDCs are given according to the weight band base. And also we had expanded our diagnostics. Just not just the microscopy or chest X-ray. We moved forward to the NAT, either GeneXpert or TrueNAT, and also the LPS, setting up more and more labs throughout India. And we have sputum microscopy, which is sensitive, which is good, but sensitive only to 60-70%. And we have solar media, which take a long time for diagnosis. Though the liquid culture decreases the time duration, but we have got the NAT, which will give you the results, especially along with the rifampicin resistance within 2 hours, and we can go for the other drug sensitivities with an LPA, line probe assay. So now we have another this change to a presumptive TB feeling that all persons, it is not a TB suspect, all persons who have any of the symptoms or signs like cough more than 2 weeks, fever more than 2 weeks, significant weight loss, hemoptysis, or any abnormality in the chest X-ray will be taken as a presumptive TB case. And also contacts of definitive TB patients, patients living with HIV/AIDS, diabetes, malnourished people, and people who are on immunosuppressants or steroids due to some other disease will be regularly screened, and they are also taken as a significant group. And we have got a new algorithm right now. So here you can see that NAT has been the most important thing. And all patients in the vulnerable group with a presumptive TB, like the pediatric age group, HIV patients, spread about pulmonary people, people with the chest X-ray shadow, and all other diagnosed cases, TB diagnosis, whatever is there, any microbiologically diagnosed TB case, and all those people will go for a NAT. And the nucleic acid, from the NAT, you can identify whether there is a microbiologically the disease is there, or it is rifampicin sensitive or not. So if it is rifampicin sensitive and positive, then you go for a first line treatment. Also, you will go for line probe assay to see whether it is resistant to INH or not. If it is sensitive to INH, we continue with the first line treatment. If it is resistant to INH, we have to start a H mono or polyresistant TB regime where you are not using INH, instead you are using levofloxacin. If you have got a NAT positive, but it is coming as rifampicin resistant, you will go for a second line testing. Definitely you will start treatment with a shorter MDR TB regime. At the same time, you will send the sample for a second line line probe assay test. And if it comes as sensitive for fluoroquinolone or other second line drugs, you will treat them or continue them with the same shorter MDR TB regime. But if you have fluoroquinolone or other second line drug resistant, you will have to go for a specially tailored regime for the patient. And here you have to look at you have to get the help of the newer drugs also. Shinobi will be talking about all these things later. And definitely you have to think, after 1966 after this rifampicin, and these are the only 2 drugs which were invented for the use of TB treatment. That shows how neglected tuberculosis was. So bedaquiline and delamanid are maybe miracle drugs, but we have to use them very cautiously. Otherwise, we may kill the drugs just like we kill our INH or streptomycin. So we have to learn from the past and we have to use it very sensibly. Now, with this, we'll go to the NTB vision. Now, the world has decided. Now, it is bad time for the world if we are not stopping our tuberculosis. So, with this, we have a vision for the world without TB and elimination of TB. We expect by 2030, a 90% of the case of TB deaths will be decreased. And TB incidence will be decreased by 80%. And no family will be suffering any catastrophic cost due to TB. The government has evolved many strategies and there has been a well-organized system straight from the center down to the health worker. And finally, this is the key things. There will be free diagnosis and free treatment for every TB patient, whether they come to the government setup or the private setup, the diagnosis and treatment will be free. There will be a public health action, including this contract tracing will be strengthened, testing for all comorbidities, diabetes, HIV, all other comorbidities will be taken care of, and the treatment adherence support will be there, and the nutrition assistance also will be there. And along with this, we take all the preventive measures. So before it was just a passive approach to case findings, now we have got active approach to case findings also. We will be finding cases in more likely groups of HIV patients, diabetes. In India, we have more correlation with diabetes and tuberculosis. So all diabetes patients will be followed up for tuberculosis. And we will look for tuberculosis actively in groups like tribals, and we will do all the outreach methods to reach the poor and rural. And the chest X-rays will be made more wide, and the clinically diagnosed tuberculosis will be given due importance. And the algorithms are already changed, and we have basing more on the NAT, either TrueNAT or CBNAT, which is used widely. And in the private sector also, we are targeting the private sector, which caters more than 60% of the TB population in India. So it is Schedule 1, TB drugs are Schedule 1. Any prescription of US will be monitored and will be noted. And so every prescription will be monitored. And it is mandatory. Notification of tuberculosis is mandatory, or else you will get a fine. And private, even in the private, patient providers will get support, money support as well as the drug support. Okay, now the treatment is a daily regime. Short regimens are there. We are using newer drugs in the drug-resistant groups. The patient-centered care is now, and it is the 99 dots and also, or we enable adherence and support to the patient. The SHAS projects are there, diabetic projects are there, or the NCD clinics, and they look at the comorbidities and treat the comorbidities, manage the comorbidities. That's also made a part of the TB control. And no patient should spend any money, any coin for his TB treatment from his pocket. In addition, they will be given financial assistance through direct benefit transfers directly to their bank accounts. So drug-resistant TB also, so there are a lot of changes Srinivas will be telling. And the most important thing, previously we just left the preventive areas. The airborne infectious control measures are involved and given due importance, strengthening contact investigations and management of latent infections and preventive treatment in high-risk groups, and all are taken care of in the new NDP. So the whole thing will be starting in Kerala. And why Kerala? Because Kerala is meeting the standards of TB care, and Kerala standard of TB care is good. So the whole thing will be started in Kerala and will be later on spread to other states. And definitely, as the madam told, TB had a difficulty. The TB control had suffered in the COVID times. There is a definite sharp decline in the lockdown and the time after that, probably due to the closure of the health facilities, including private clinics. The transportation was affected. Human resources and infrastructures were diverted for COVID. and the heightened stigma towards people showing COVID-19 symptoms. And sadly, TB symptoms are also the same cough. If you cough in the public, you are not. So that's the right. We see a lot of patients coming with 3 positive. Even in the ward, tuberculosis was usually rare before 1 week in our ward. But we see a lot of cases TB 3 positive, MPMS, because they neglected the symptoms and they came only very late. So we have got more and more cases of advanced tuberculosis recently, and definitely there was a significant dip in TB notification, about 24-30% increase, and definitely the COVID-19 was a hard hitting for the TB control measures. We are around 5 to 8 years were lost, but we will catch up. COVID can be made a boon to TB control if you think like that. Mask and safe distancing. We continue that. The improved public hygiene. Patients were afraid of coughing outside because people would suspect COVID like that. They were not spitting, so they should cover the cough. They should not spitting outside. With all these things, just like the Europe could control TB even before the drugs, we can control. Just by improving our public hygiene, our personal hygiene methods, and we knew that the importance of airborne control, infection control methods nowadays. Now we can take all the COVID problem as a boom, and we can catch it. And the Akshaya Keralam is already on, and definitely people are working, wholeheartedly working. Like my friend Shinobi in the district TB center, they are the backbone of the TB supports, and I invite my friend Shinobi, consultant pulmonologist, district TB center, to continue with the national programs and the treatment also. So far, thank you.
Hello, Shinobi sir.
From now, Shinobi will be doing. Shinobi.
Venugopal sir. Shinobi sir. Okay, sir.
Can you hear, madam?
Yes, you are audible.
Can you hear?
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Cannot hear?
Yes, yes, we can
Yes,
hear.
you are audible.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
Okay,
Most
sir.
respected Mohan sir, Vijayan sir, respected senior faculty, senior doctors and friends. Venugopal sir already covered very nicely regarding the history of tuberculosis and also evolution of National TB Control Program. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to talk on tuberculosis on this World TB Day. Good afternoon to all. Now, I will be briefly discussing about the management of tuberculosis. As many of the participants are students, so I will be covering some of the basics of the management of TB, as well as recent updates in tuberculosis. I will be covering the management of drug management of sensitive and resistant form of TB, also regarding the pre-treatment evaluation and how the patient should be followed up and monitored during the treatment. And regarding Nikshay, it's a web-based application. It's an Android app. All the TB patients should have Nikshay number and their details should be updated. Because TB is a notifiable disease. If you are not notifying, it's a punishable offense. And also about direct benefit transfer. And also I will be discussing about some of the common adverse reaction with anti-TB treatment. And also if time permits, the latest one, the management of latent TB infection. So the basis of chemotherapy of tuberculosis is that in all other infectious disease, we may be using 1 or 2 drugs. But in tuberculosis, we have to have multi-drug therapy because there are different types of bacilli. Some of the bacilli are actively dividing drugs like isoniazid, streptomycin, rifampicin, and ethambutol acting on such category of bacilli. And some of the bacilli are intracellularly slowly multiplying organisms. Drugs, especially pyrazinamide, is acting on such drug. Some of the bacilli are extracellular slowly multiplying organisms. Drugs like rifampicin and INH act on them. Suppose if there is a failure of selection of this combination of drugs, it may lead to failure that leads to selection of resistant organism and patient may present later with drug resistance form of tuberculosis. And the duration of treatment is also minimum of 6 months. Suppose if you are not giving for 6 months, there can be some persistence and later patient may present with relapse. So in tuberculosis, we should have multi-drug therapy and also the duration should be adequate. Otherwise, that may lead to treatment failure. And regarding phases of TB treatment, we have 2 phases. First is the intensive phase, second is the continuation phase. Intensive phase, which aims at the rapid killing of the Mycobacterium TB bacilli, thereby it will prevent the deterioration and death. And it reduces the infectivity. And the sputum conversion will be around 80 to 90% by the end of intensive phase. And as we are adding pyrazinamide, it again reduces the duration to 6 months. As also Venugopal sir already mentioned, previously RNCP, the continuation phase, we were not using ethambutol. Now we are using ethambutol in the continuation phase. Now regarding the continuation phase, it eliminates most of the residual bacilli which is left behind. Hence, it reduces the failures and relapses. Small number of bacilli left behind, so fewer drugs are used in the continuation phase. So now here we are using in the continuation phase ethambutol. The reason behind is that suppose if you are giving only INH and rifampicin to the continuation phase, and many of our patients have baseline resistance to isoniazid. Suppose if patient has resistance to isoniazid, patient will be getting monotherapy with rifampicin, and ultimately that augment the development of resistance to rifampicin also. So the patient may in future develop MDR form of tuberculosis. So we have intensive phase and the continuation phase. Intensive phase, we will give it for 8 weeks, and continuation phase for 16 weeks. So now we diagnose with tuberculosis, and before starting the treatment, we should have a pre-treatment evaluation. The patient's blood sugar level should be checked because, as Venugopal sir already mentioned, among diabetes, the incidence of TB is quite high. And also all the patients should have an HIV test prior to the start of treatment, because development of tuberculosis in HIV patient is 10 to 60 times higher than that of normal population. And all the patients have a baseline liver function test, because now we are giving daily regime. As I already told, previously we were giving intermittent regime. Now we are giving daily. Patients are getting drugs on daily basis, and some cases of hepatitis are observed with this daily regime. So know that whether the patient liver function test prior to the treatment is normal or not. And all the patients should have a baseline ophthalmologic evaluation, because the ethambutol in some patients may cause optic neuritis. So we should have a baseline idea regarding color vision and visual acuity of the patient. And renal function test is also advised if indicated. In all these patients, we should do this pre-treatment evaluation. All the investigations we are doing at free of cost, even the chest X-ray. As I already mentioned, the incidence of TB in diabetic patient is quite high. So all the diabetic patient in each visit should be screened for tuberculosis. In Kerala, among the TB patient, 44% of them are diabetic. Interestingly, about 20% of them are diagnosed only after diagnosing tuberculosis. So they have increased risk of progressing from latent to active form of TB. They have 2 to 3 times higher risk of developing TB. And also, the diabetes can lengthen the time of sputum conversion. At the end of 2 months, they may remain as sputum positive. And also, they have increased risk of death during treatment and higher risk of relapse if diabetes is not adequate. So, good glycemic control is essential. Other risk factor is smoking. Especially smokers, they attribute the cough to the, because I am smoking, I have the cough, they will not come to the investigation or treatment. So there can be a delay in diagnosis, and increased cough frequency that again causes increased spread of the disease. And they may have additional comorbidity like CAD and COPD that again leads to increased mortality. And other risk factors are malnutrition, is where it should be addressed, and alcoholics also has increased risk of developing tuberculosis. And also extremes of age is also a risk factor for developing tuberculosis. And now we go for the NDEP treatment and adherence support and monitoring. So we are giving treatment on daily observation by a trained treatment supporter. Family member can be the treatment supporter in children and in bedridden patients. Sometimes observation is not enough. We may have to give social, emotional, nutritional support. Now, most of the LSGD are giving nutritional support to the patient. Some NGOs and many organizations are giving the social support system for the needed TB patients. Sometimes, if the patient has some addiction, we may have to give de-addiction treatment also. And one of the important thing is that in all the TB patients, we should ask for the history of smoking or alcoholism. So smoking cessation counseling should be started from the very beginning, and it should be continued even after completion of the treatment. So, as I already mentioned, now we are using fixed drug combination. Previously, in RNCP, we were using individual drugs. Now we are using FDC. It is safe. It simplified the treatment. There is no error in missing one or more of the combination drugs. Reduces the risk of emergence of drug resistance because we are taking multiple drugs together. And from the programmatic point of view, it can simplify drug supply management and distribution. So Venugopal sir already mentioned about the diagnosis and outlined the treatment regime. So any patients with symptoms of TB, we call them as a case of presumptive TB. The symptoms are already mentioned. In all the presumptive TB cases, it can be pulmonary or extrapulmonary, whatever may be the case. If biological samples are available, we should do a NAT test. N-A-A-T, NAT. NAT means nucleic acid amplification test. It can be either TrueNAT or CBNAT. TrueNAT machines are also available at all taluk level hospitals. Previously, CBNAT were available only at the district TB centers. And we can do NAT test in all samples if samples are available except in blood. Okay, we are doing a NAT test, and if the NAT test shows the result that MTB, the advantage of NAT as comparing with the microscope is that it can even detect less than 250 colony bacilli per ml. With an ordinary microscope, it requires around 10,000 bacilli to get a positive result on ordinary microscope. So we will be doing a NAT test. NAT test will show an idea regarding the presence of Mycobacterium TB as well as its sensitive pattern to rifampicin. So from the very beginning, we will get an idea regarding the presence of bacilli as well as sensitivity pattern to rifampicin. Okay. If patient is sensitive to rifampicin, so in all cases of TB, we can divide broadly into two classes. Either it is a new case of TB or previously treated case of TB. New case means there is no history of tuberculosis in the past or less, or took treatment for less than 1 month. Previously treated or retreatment case means patient took treatment for more than 1 month. So in all the cases, we'll be doing a NAT test, and NAT test will give an idea regarding the presence of bacilli as well as the sensitivity pattern to rifampicin. So we have mainly two first-line drugs, INH and rifampicin. So if it is sensitive, we will be starting the patient on sensitive form of tuberculosis. And in some districts in Kerala, they will be sending the sample from the very beginning to intermediate reference laboratory, which is located one in Trivandrum and other in Calicut for the first line LPA. In first line LPA, we will get an idea regarding presence of organism and also sensitive pattern to rifampicin and INH. But in some district, we are not sending the sample for first line LPA at the beginning. In near future, we will be sending, as our lab's capacity increases, we will be sending the sample for first line LPA from the very beginning. Now in a district like Kottayam and all, after 2 months, if patient is not responding or patient is having history of previous treatment at the very beginning, we will be sending the sample for first line LPA. As Venugopal sir already mentioned, if first line LPA is showing resistance to INH, then we have a regime for INH monoresistant. Okay. Now, regarding resistant form, I will be discussing later. So now we have a sensitive form of TB. We will be starting the more sensitive treatment. So treatment for drug sensitive TB in new case and also in previously treated case. In previous, that's what I am emphasizing on previously treated cases. Previously, for previously treated cases, we had a separate regime with streptomycin. Now, no such regime exists. In all the cases of sensitive form of TB, we will be giving in the intensive phase isoniazid, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethambutol for 8 weeks, that's 2 months, followed by isoniazid, rifampicin, and ethambutol for the remaining 16 weeks. That's for 4 months. This is the treatment regime. So there is no separate regime for new or previously treated cases. Previously, now regarding follow-up, at the end of 2 months, we will be doing a sputum examination. Previously in RNCP, if at the end of the intensive phase, if smear is positive, we are extending the intensive phase for 1 more month. Now there is no such extension. There is smear positivity at the end of 2 months. We will have other possibility. The patient may not have taken treatment properly. Maybe a case of drug-resistant form of TB. Patient may have history of diabetes level may not be controlled. So we will be continuing with the continuation phase and we will investigate for the drug-resistant form of tuberculosis. In some cases, like the spinal TB, CNS TB and disseminated form of TB, we may have to extend the intensive phase to 12 to 24 weeks. We can give APT until 9 or 12 months. Okay. So this already mentioned, there is no separate regime. This is the, now the treatment is based upon, when I was already showed slide, this is based upon the weight band. Adult, we have 5 weight band. There's no need to add all these things. We can keep a chart with us. So depending upon the weight band, the lowest weight band, we are giving 2 tablets per day. And in higher weight band, we will be giving 6 tablets per day. Every day patient has to take a tablet. In pediatric group, we have 6 weight band starting from 4 to 7 kilograms, and the maximum weight band gets to 39 kilograms. And pediatric age group is considered in under 18 years of age. And also, if the weight is more than 39 kilograms, we will be giving the weight band corresponding to the adult weight. Okay. Am I so fast? No.
It's okay, sir.
It's okay, sir.
It's okay. Everybody is following. Okay, no problem. Okay. So this is the about the FDC. 4 FDC comes in red color strip. 3 FDC means it contains 3 tablets. This 3 FDC will be giving in the continuation phase with blue cover. And on my left side was the previous RNSP we are giving separate drugs. Now on the right side we will be giving FDC, fixed drug combination. This is the pediatric FDC. There is a slight difference in the pediatric FDC. Pediatric tablets they made in disposable form. So the rifampicin, INH, and pyrazinamide for the intensive phase are available as disposable tablet. Ethambutol comes as a separate tablet because it cannot be made into disposable form because of its physical property. And in the continuation phase, combination of INH and rifampicin, there also ethambutol comes as a separate tablet. About the follow-up, I already mentioned there is no extension of the intensive phase. CP can be prolonged in selective cases, and we will be doing the sputum culture at the end of the treatment. And the important thing is that in all cases of tuberculosis, after completion of the treatment, it should be monitored at 6 monthly interval for a period of 2 years to know about the any relapse. So this was all about the sensitive form of TB. We have only one regime. We have intensive phase and continuation phase. Total duration is 156 days. Okay. Now, briefly regarding the drug resistance form of tuberculosis. So what is the definition of drug resistance TB? And why there is drug resistance TB? The definition is that the infectious isolates in vitro has resistance to isoniazid and rifampicin. If rifampicin resistance itself is also considered as a multi background disturbance, MDR-TB, that means the infectious isolates has resistance to isoniazid and rifampicin, or rifampicin resistance itself is considered as MDR-TB because almost all the cases of rifampicin resistance will have INH resistance also. So this was the algorithm I was discussing earlier. So we will be doing first line LPA. Okay, in first line LPA will give an idea regarding sensitivity pattern to INH and rifampicin. Suppose if after doing the first line LPA, if patient has resistance to isoniazid, we can put them on a H-mono poly regime. Now already we discussed about the sensitive treatment regime. Now the second regime is H-mono poly regime. That regime is exclusively for the isoniazid mono-resistant TB cases. And if after doing the NAT test, if the patient after doing the LPA test, if both are sensitive, we can continue with the sensitive form of TB. Suppose the NAT test showing result like rifampicin resistant detected, we will be sending the sample for second line LPA. Second line LPA mainly they are doing for quinolones and aminoglycoside. If patient has resistance to quinolones and aminoglycoside, injectable aminoglycosides and quinolones, then we label them as a case of XDR-TB, extensively drug-resistant TB. That means MDR plus resistance to quinolones and aminoglycosides, we label them as a case of XDR-TB. Suppose if the patient has resistance to rifampicin, we will be sending the sample for second-line LPA. All the LPA test and the liquid culture will be done at, I already mentioned, intermediate reference laboratory. One is located at Trivandrum and other at Calicut. Depending upon the criteria, we have two classes of treatment for MDR-TB. First is the shorter MDR-TB regime. And if patient is not, I will discuss later much more. If it is, they are not eligible for shorter regime, you will start them on all oral longer regime. And we have newer drugs, Venus are already mentioned, like Delamanid and Bedaquiline. In this all oral longer regime, we will be using the newer drugs. So suppose if we are diagnosing a patient with multi-resistance TB, before starting the therapy, we should do, as like sensitive TB, we should do some pre-treatment evaluation because these drugs are more toxic. So patient should undergo a series of investigations. Complete blood count, renal function test, liver function test, audiometry, hearing checkup should be done if you are using injectables, and thyroid function test because some of the drugs which using in the MDR-TB regime may cause thyroid dysfunction, and urine examination, psychiatric evaluation because some of the drugs like cycloserine which we are using in the MDR-TB may cause psychiatric disturbances, serum electrolytes, calcium, magnesium, especially if we are using newer drugs like Delamanid or Bedaquiline, serum proteins, especially if you are using Delamanid because it is protein bound, albumin level should be more than 2.8. ECG is very important because these newer drugs like Delamanid, Bedaquiline, moxifloxacin, and clofazimine, they all are prone for QT prolongation in the ECG. So there is a risk of arrhythmia. So all patients should have a baseline ECG. A urine pregnancy test in all female of reproductive age group. Ophthalmologic opinion is also essential because in all oral longer regime, we are using a drug like linezolid, which is prone for chorioretinitis. So before starting therapy, we have to rule out the chorioretinitis and surgical evaluation if needed. So these are the pre-treatment evaluation for all MDR-TB patients before starting the therapy. So I already mentioned if the first line LPA showing resistance to isoniazid, then we have to start them on H-monopoly regime. And secondly, if rifampicin resistance is present, in some patients we can give, this is a little difficult topic, just try to understand, okay. In some cases, we can give shorter MDR-TB regime. So there are some criteria. Some criteria are based on the drug susceptibility test. For example, while doing the second line LPA, if the infectious isolates are resistant to aminoglycoside or fluoroquinolones, in such cases we cannot give shorter regime. And also, in INH resistance, mainly they have two mutations. G mutation and INHA mutation. If a strain has INHA mutation, then it will be having resistance to ethionamide also. Ethionamide is a drug which we are using in the shorter regime. So suppose if that infectious isolates has resistance to INH in INHA mutation, in such case also we cannot use shorter regime. If there is any resistance to pyrazinamide or history of any second line drugs for more than 1 month, in all these cases, we cannot use the shorter regime. And other criteria are pregnancy, there is a contraindication, all extrapulmonary tuberculosis in HIV patients, and disseminated or nervous system tuberculosis, we cannot use the shorter regime. If there is any intolerance to any of the drugs which used in the shorter regime, we cannot use the shorter regime. In short, the shorter regime we cannot modify. If patient has any contraindication or any intolerance to any of the components in shorter regime, we have to go for the all oral longer regime. In brief, in some cases we can give shorter regime. If they are not eligible, we can give all oral longer regime. This regime is started in 2000 last year only. Okay. Sorry. I already mentioned about the all oral longer regime. This regime is based on, to simplify the treatment. Previously, we had a lot of regimes for MDR TB. This is based upon the WHO 2018 guidelines. So we will select the drugs from this classification. According to WHO, we should have 5 drugs initially and later on 4 drugs initially and later on 3 drugs. In India, we are selecting 5 drugs initially and later 4 drugs because some of the drugs like linezolid are very will produce a lot of adverse reaction, and many times we may have to stop the drug in between. So this classification is group A, includes levofloxacin or moxiflox, bedaquiline or linezolid. Group B, clofazimine, cycloserine or tersiddone, and group C, ethambutol, delamanid, pyrazinamide, mepenem silastine, meropenem, amikacin, ethionamide, prothionamide, or ANPAS. And usually, if patient they are sensitive, we can from the group A and B we will get 5 drugs. So if any of these drugs are contraindicated or patient is resistant, then we may have to select 2 drugs from group C instead of the drugs from A and B. So the classification from this group, we are selecting the drugs for all oral longer in MDR, and also in XDR cases also we can select the drugs from this classification. This is in detail about the drugs. As I already told, we have H monopoly regime and also we have MDR regime. H monopoly, the treatment is 6 months daily. You will be giving levofloxacin, rifampicin, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide. There is no intensive or continuation phase. In some cases, if it is extensive disease or spinal or meningeal case, you can continue the treatment for 9 to 12 months. Because of scarcity of the time, I will not be giving in detail about the monitoring of the treatment. So just to know that only 4 drugs will be using for 6 months. And regarding the shorter MDR regime, I already mentioned about the eligibility criteria. Is eligible and start on shorter regime because short the treatment will be finished in 9 to 11 months. There we have intensive and continuation phase. In intensive phase, that's from 4 to 6 months, we will be giving injection kanamycin or amikacin daily, except on Sundays. Moxifloxacin, ethionamide, clofazimine, pyrazinamide, high dose INH, and ethambutol for 4 months in the intensive phase. And if 4 months, if the smear remains as positive, we will extend the intensive phase for 2 more months with giving injection twice weekly. And at the end of 6 months, we will be going towards the continuation phase. And the continuation phase is for 5 months. We will be giving moxifloxacin, clofazimine, ethambutol, and pyrazinamide for a period of 5 months. So the duration of shorter MDR regime varies from 9 months to maximum of 11. Patient is not eligible for shorter regime. We will put them on all oral longer regime. The duration is 18 to 20 months. Initially for the 6 months, we will be giving tablet, bedaquiline, and levoflox, linezolid, clofazimine, and cycloserine. This linezolid also we are giving at a dose of 600 milligram per day for 6 months. If there is culture conversion at 6 months, we will reduce the dose to 300 milligram per day. If it is not negative at 6 months, we will extend 600 milligram up to 8 months, and after 8 months. So there is only difference is that the bedaquiline is our element which is continued only up to 6 months. After 6 months, these drugs will be stopped, and linezolid also will be decreased to 300 milligram, and other drugs like levofloxacin, clofazimine, and cycloserine will be continued for the remaining months. This is about the all oral longer regime. So we have sensitive regime, We have a regime for isoniazid monoresistant TB cases, and we have two regimes for multi-drug resistance TB. One is the shorter MDR TB regime, and the second one is the all oral longer regime. And a few words regarding the adverse drug reaction. I'll be just briefing of some of the important adverse drug reaction, because it's very important to know the adverse reaction that may lead to the interruption of the treatment, and that may cause mortality, may sometimes litigation. It may lead to poor outcome, longer regime, and later that may presenting with drug resistance form of tuberculosis. So many times adverse reactions are often missed and under-reported. I will be discussing some of the very few adverse reactions with the first line drugs. Isoniazid, peripheral neuropathy is a common adverse reaction. Malnutrition and diabetes predisposed to it. There is suspicion. Patient says tingling and numbness of the extremities. You can do a nerve conduction study for confirmation. You can prevent peripheral neuropathy by giving pyridoxine 10 milligram per kilogram per day. If patient develops peripheral neuropathy, we can treat it with pyridoxine at higher dose. Isoniazid. Other than peripheral neuropathy, may cause hepatitis, severe hypersensitivity reaction, and psychosis, and also some other minor adverse reaction. And rifampicin, it may cause cutaneous reaction, hepatitis, severe hypersensitivity reaction, and sometimes flu-like syndrome or Stevens-Johnson syndrome. So adverse reaction. So the treatment supporter or dot provider or the family member should be aware about the chance of development of the adverse reaction. So before starting the treatment, the patient or the bystander should be counseled regarding the possibility of adverse reaction. As a rifampicin tablet may cause yellow discoloration of the body secretions, or there is a chance of development of hepatitis. So what are the warning symptoms like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, or if patient develop any visual disturbances, they should immediately come to the health system to confirm that whether it is adverse reaction or not. So hence we can do action at the time. And about ethambutol, the common adverse reaction is optic neuritis. As I already mentioned earlier, in all the patients we will be doing ophthalmology evaluation at the beginning, and also, if needed, paracetamol mainly causing hepatitis and also gout, and sometimes may cause interstitial nephritis. Streptomycin mainly with ototoxicity, hearing disturbances, vestibular dysfunction, sometimes nephrotoxicity, and angioneurotic edema. And management of the ADR, I already mentioned, treatment patient education is compulsory. If it is mild, that can be treated with some simple remedies, and dose reduction may be required if patient develops serious form of adverse reaction. So patient should be educated adequately, and the dog worker also should be motivated or identify early identification of the adverse events. Some of the common adverse reactions, gastritis is very common with INH, rifampicin, pyrazinamide, ethionamide, PAS. So it mainly caused by the bulk of drugs. We can advise the patient to take the tablet in banana, or ethionamide can be consumed with some amount of milk, or patient can be given EPA or H2 blocker. And hepatotoxicity, suppose if patients develops symptoms of hepatitis, depending upon the liver function, we may have to stop the treatment. After normalizing the liver function, we have to reintroduce the drug one by one. If the patient condition is very serious, then we may have to opt for an alternate regime for a short period. About the adverse reaction with drug-resistant TB treatment, mainly patient may develop psychosis or suicide ideation with ethionamide and cycloserine. The bedaquiline may cause QT, and delamanin can cause QT prolongation, and bedaquiline may cause headache. And regarding peripheral neuropathy, INH, along with INH, linezolid is also not known for peripheral neuropathy, so it should be early identified. And quinolones and cycloserine are prone for seizures, and ethambutol is prone for, and linezolid is prone for visual disturbances. So this all adverse reaction should be kept in mind. It should be well explained to the patient as well as the third provider. because of the lack of time, I am not just speaking the adverse reaction. So there is a pharmacovigilance. All the adverse reaction should be reported in the VG-FLOW. That's the pharmacovigilance system. That's a simplified forms available. And another important thing is that all the TB patients should be reviewed by the health system every 2 weekly. They should be reviewed. An ophthalmological evaluation should be done by an optometrist at the block level, and the field staff should monitor the adverse drug reaction. Now we have the honorarium for the treatment supporters. In sensitive form, we will be giving 1,000 rupees at the completion of the treatment. As I already mentioned, in all the patients, Government of India is providing 500 in a program called Nikshay Posham Yojana to all TB patients as a direct benefit transfer. In the private sector also, now in Kerala, under a program called STEPS, Step System for Elimination of TB in Private Sector. All the investigations, treatment, support, everything is available in the private sector. In the private sector also, we will be providing 1,000 rupees for the treatment support at the completion of the treatment. So about Nikshay Posham Yojana, it is available for all the TB patients since April 2018. We will be giving 500 rupees at the beginning of the treatment. We will be taking their bank account detail, and it is directly transferred to their account for their nutritional purpose. So as I already mentioned about Nikshay, all the patients should be registered in Nikshay, and all the treatment details, including their comorbidity and their outcome, everything should be updated in the Nikshay. It is not done, it is a punishable. So it is a web-based now. And also, regarding the airborne infection control, we are giving all the patients airborne infection control kit, spittoon, phenyl, and masks for controlling the infection control. So in all the health facility, hospital should undergo risk assessment for airborne infection control. Airborne infection control committee should be trained, and it should have their meeting frequently. And for airborne infection control facility, it's the COVID. Now we are strict with the infection control measures like screening of the patient. Respiratory symptomatic should be screened at the reception area. There should be adequate cough etiquette. Patient should be taught how to cough properly, and there should be segregation of the respiratory symptomatics. And if symptomatic, there should be a system for fast tracking, and also we should have adequate post ventilation in our institutions, and if needed, we should provide the healthcare providers N95 respirators. So now we are moving ahead with the TB elimination mission. Elimination of TB means we should have is less than 1 case in 1 million. In 10 lakh, we should have less than 1 case that we are aiming in future. So we did a vulnerability survey in 2018 all over Kerala. So we have now this vulnerable individual. Now we are frequently monitoring the vulnerable individual for the development of the tuberculosis. And recently we have started with the latent TB infection treatment that itself will prevent the TB incidence in future. So in the phase 2, we have that vulnerable individual, because depending upon their comorbidity and their high risk of developing tuberculosis, we have a local self-government wise report of the vulnerable individual. The health workers will be quarterly reviewing this case for the early detection of tuberculosis. That will again add to elimination of tuberculosis. As I already mentioned, now we have a program called Akshaya Kerala. In that, we have started latent TB treatment. Previously, we were giving this TB preventive therapy only for children less than 5 years of age. Now we started the program up to 15 years of age, and now the TB treatment has become doorstep. Okay, it is more people-centric program, and in all the cases, we are offering upfront test. In addition to this, we have Coalition of Professional Medical Association to improve the standard of TB care in all systems like Indian Medical Association, APCCM, and Indian Academy of Pediatrics, Kerala Private Hospital Association, ESI, KGMOA, KGMC, all are participating together for the elimination of tuberculosis. We are planning to improve the standard of care. So private sector engagement, we have a program already called System for Elimination of TB Control in Private Sector. Here also we are providing free diagnostic services, free treatment, and also DBT is also available for the private patient also. So a few slides regarding the latent TB infection. Latent TB infection is defined as a state of persistent immune stimulation by mycobacterium tuberculosis antigen with no evidence of clinically manifest active TB. So, if these children or latently infected patients we are not treating with rifampicin and INH regime, they may develop tuberculosis in the future. Now, as an initial phase, we will be providing this latent TB treatment for children up to 15 years of age. Now, after some time, we will be extending this service to all the population there with latent TB infection. So, studies shows that if you are giving latent TB treatment to the children, there is 90% reduction of tuberculosis in that children in future. So, we can reduce the incidence of TB significantly. How we will identify the eligible children? Now, with the case of TB can be divided into, I already told, microbiology unformed TB and clinically diagnosed TB. In all the microbiologically unformed pulmonary TB contact children less than 15 years of age, they are eligible for latent TB infection treatment. If they are less than 5 years of age, there is no need of any investigation. We should evaluate the children for active tuberculosis if they have any symptoms suggestive of TB. If after ruling out the active TB disease, we can start them on isoniazid and rifampicin prophylaxis for 3 months. Suppose if the age is more than 5 years and there is a history of contact with microbiologically confirmed pulmonary TB, we should do an IGRA test. Now that is also available in government sector at free of cost. We will be doing an IGRA test. If negative, there is no need of HR prophylaxis. If positive, they should be screened for active TB. If there is no active TB, we have to start them on HR. Active TB is detected, treated as a case of TB. So this already I mentioned. We'll be doing an IGRA test. And the treatment is isoniazid and rifampicin daily for 3 months, depending upon the weight band. This is the weight band. About 25 kilogram, we'll be using 100 formulation. So this is all about the treatment of sensitive form of TB and resistant form of TB, and also about the management of latent TB infection. In sensitive TB, we have only one regime. Resistant TB, we have 3 regime. We have H monopoly regime. We have shorter MDR TB regime. We have all oral longer regime. The most important thing is that all sensitive form of TB should be diagnosed as early as possible, and they should take adequate treatment for adequate period of time. Then we can prevent even development of the MDR TB resistance also to a certain extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Venugopal sir, Shinobi sir, for the inspiring, knowledgeful scientific session, stressing on the various aspects of tuberculosis, history, steps of development of vaccine, treatment regimen, government programs, adverse drug reactions, and its management. Thank you, sir. Now the floor is open for question and answer. The participants can clear and clarify any doubts if you have. Sir, there is one question in the chat box. Why are we not giving pyridoxine to all the patients like previously?
We are giving now.
We are giving.
Not giving pyridoxine.
We are giving pyridoxine.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. One more question is there. Is the symptoms are hidden in diabetes mellitus, diabetic patients?
Yeah, it can be. That's why we are recommending in all diabetic patients, each and every visit, they should be screened for tuberculosis. In diabetic patient, there is no need to wait for 2 weeks cough. So that's why in NCD program, we are incorporating this also. In all visits, we should look for tuberculosis. Not only treating diabetes, we should roll out tuberculosis in all the patients of diabetic patients, each and every visit.
HIV prevalence.
Okay, sir, there is one more question. That is, to how much extent the elimination program will affect by the HIV prevalence?
Madam, actually, the HIV is not a very big problem for India or at least Kerala. We have the most important comorbidity here is diabetes, and we are seeing maximum number of patients with diabetes, and also difficult. They come up with very difficult situations, and HIV is apparently very low here.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is one more question from Bhagya. That is, if they got COVID, how additional precautions are taken? If TB patients are getting COVID, how additional precautions can be taken?
The government has given a guideline because we find a lot of patients who are not attending clinics because they neglect their cough because they are afraid whether the cough is due to COVID or something. Anyway, we get 3+ cases right now. Government had given guidelines because there is a dip in the notification. Every patient with cough etc. has to go for both the COVID test as well as the NAT test. Because the same machine is doing the work. Using the same machine, you can do both. So both has to be done. Then government has made a doorstep taking system and all to take care of that.
If they develop tuberculosis treatment can be continued, no problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Any more questions? Okay, my dear friends, now it's time to conclude the program. Even in the midst of busy schedules, Venugopal sir agreed to handle the session, and I feel it is a necessity of the time. Thank you, sir, for upgrading our knowledge of tuberculosis. Thank you, sir. May I extend my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Shinobi Kurian. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. I am extremely thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Mohanan Kundumel, for his timely advice and guidance for the conduct of this program. On my own behalf and on behalf of the Center for Healthcare Counseling, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. Next, I would thank Professor Dr. C.P. Vijayan, Pro Vice Chancellor of our university, for his encouraging and inspiring felicitation. Thank you, sir. I am grateful to our Registrar, Dr. Manoj Kumar, sir, and Dr. Anil Kumar, sir, Controller of Examination, for all their support to conduct this program. I am especially thankful to our Dean Research, Dr.